Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Vibe of EcoWiser. We had seen the Vibe of IPX, Vibe of Kringle, Vibe of Creative Organics, Vibe of SUP. So now we have the Vibe of EcoWiser. EcoWiser is a very interesting startup in the sustainability space and are hoping to change our habits, so the planet can be a better one for the future generations to inherit. So we have 4 amazing individuals from EcoWiser who are building this organization, and I'm sure it'll be fun to listen to them about the kind of culture they have at EcoWiser internally, and looking forward to see how the conversation goes. So Ram, would you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. So I currently manage EcoWiser. We started this a little over a year ago, and it's primarily to see how we can enable more consumers to live a sustainable lifestyle and also help brands improve their sustainability practices. Our aim is to, like, in the next 10 years, influence 100 million people to live more sustainably. And so far, how are we doing it is that we are using a web platform and a browser extension to help consumers make more sustainable choices. And prior to starting this, I worked for about 10 years. I was at Google for about 6 years, and then mostly in marketing and digital space, and then at Danaher for a couple of years. And post that, I spent a couple of years in renewable energy, organic farming, and doing different projects in the nonprofit space. So that's at a high level about me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. So between Divya, Pranav, and Anirban, one of you want to go in?
Divya, just go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So hi, I'm Divya, and I manage the sustainability research team here at EcoWiser. And so again, being a startup, I think like the roles are quite cross-functional here. So I work a little bit in marketing and content and business and different things as well. So I'm actually a doctor by education. So I did my MBBS and then I worked for a few years, but then I started learning more about sustainability and everything that's happening to the planet. And I realized that I wanted to create impact in this space instead. So I started exploring the space, and soon I landed up at EcoWiser, and I think I've learned a lot here. So yeah, that's for me.
I'll keep adding maybe fun facts of different team members. So Divya is also like, she has her own fashion brand as well in the sustainability space. And she's not just like research, jack of all trade, all sorts of things you can ask her and she would know something about it. So she's like sustainability champion in the company. Okay.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Ram. Over to you, Pranav and Anirban.
Pranav. You're on mute, Pranav.
Sure. Hi everyone, this is Pranav. I've been working at EcoWiser since last 1 year. I work as a SEO manager here, and I also look over the content team and also do some other marketing works.
Cool. I'll take over from there. So my name is Anirban. I've been working at EcoWiser for close to a year and a half now, I'd say, or almost a year. Little over a year, actually.
Yeah.
And prior to this, I have a degree in engineering. I also have a postgrad diploma in finance. And prior to this, I have had my own startup. I do have my own startup. We started a company based in the IoT mobility industry back in 2018. Me along with my 3 other co-founders ended up raising funds both across the government as well as the VC space to expand it. And we also got a fair amount of exposure, following which I realized that I wanted to work in something that was a little more tangibly impactful. That was my pitch to Ram when I was trying to sell him on the idea of actually getting to work with him. I wanted to work on something that could make a difference that I could see immediately. And I currently handle the product teams at EcoWiser, but like Divya said, it's a fairly new company, which means that the roles are essentially quite cross-functional. And I have a fair amount of experience in handling operations, products, and tech, and that's kind of what happens here as well. If it's not HR, I'm probably trying to get involved in some way or the other in the pie over here. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So just a small caveat this thing here. So usually when people ask me to introduce Anirban, and I'm like, what does Anirban handle? Someone asks me, I'm like, yeah, he does product. He also does design, also development. So I'm like, he's a jack of all trades. So you go to him for any area that you're exploring, as you said, except HR. Also, fun fact about Anirban. I don't know if you all follow Shark Tank. He was there last year, and I think he raised. I mean, maybe he can talk about it.
Yeah, I try to avoid talking about this. Ram will bring it up. I figured he would.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, this is so in the debut season of Shark Tank India, my company Altor, we went on television. Me and my co-founders, we were one of only 67 startups out of 65,000 to actually raise money, and one of only 16 out of those 65 to actually get a offer from all the judges, and we ended up taking an offer from Aman Gupta and Namita Thapar. So it was post that I'm actually working with EcoWiser. So yeah, that's something, I guess. I think Tarun, you can take it from there, right?
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. So now I have a question. So I'll start with Ram and then go to three of you. So Ram, why did you start bzen/EcoWiser?
So around mid 2019, when I moved out of, I was working at Danaher in Singapore and the US, and moved back to India. I wanted to see what we could do to address climate change. Environment was something, that degradation was something that bothered me deeply. And I started with exploring organic farming and how it could reduce carbon emissions by 20-25%. So I spoke to a lot of farmers, did a bunch of courses on organic farming, realized farmers would try organic only if they get more money. Based on that, I learned this multi-layer farming where you do 4 or 5 levels of crop through which you get more yields. And I did farming myself a couple of seasons, one to see if it works, and if it works, how do you scale it? End of 2 seasons, I got okay yields. More than that, I realized it's very hard to scale this. So if you take this as a supply side, as like what can we do on the demand side, influence consumers to make better choices. And also I was trying to see how I could leverage my past skill set in the digital space. And this was something that appealed to me. And because if you can change consumer demand, automatically the supply side will change. And so that was my thought process. And also this was much more scalable. So that was my thought process of starting bzen/EcoWiser. You're muted, Tarun.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. So now my question to Pranav, Divya, and Anirban. So why did you join bzen, and what keeps you going at bzen/EcoWiser?
Divya, you want to take that?
Sure. So, I mean, I was trying to firstly learn more about sustainability, and I mean, I think what is happening to the planet, like Ram said, it deeply bothered me also. Like I was quite affected by it, and I wanted to do something about it, but it's always like difficult to figure out where to start and how to. And also it was a career transition for me, so there was that aspect as well. And when I was applying for EcoWiser, firstly, what they were doing made so much sense to me. I mean, I think trying to influence people to make better choices is something difficult to do, and I felt like that EcoWiser is doing it in a very innovative way. And also, I think there's a great atmosphere of learning at EcoWiser, and that came out even through the job description that I've seen, and after the interview with Ram, and I got this feeling in the beginning that Ram is someone who wants to help the planet, and he wants to help other people grow and also help the planet. So and I think that's pretty much how it's been since I've been here for a little more than a year. So yeah, I think that was my main reason for joining and what sort of keeps me going through. Yeah.
Pranav?
Yeah. So When I joined Beason, I had this thing in my mind that I'll do this internship for 6 months and then I'll be moving abroad to pursue journalism as a master's. But working with Ram has been such an experience. It has been such a life that I've dropped that idea, and it has been more than over a year now, and I'm still here. And every day is a new. I mean, every day I'm learning something new. I'm trying something new, and Ram always, I mean, tries to motivate us to try out new things. And I think working here, I mean, I only realized, I mean, that I actually love what I do. So that is a very big thing. Before that, it was just work, and now I really enjoy it. So
Okay. So coming to me, I had been social impact had been a particular like sweet spot for me for a very long period of time. I mean, back in college, I used to head up as one of the directors of my Rotaract club. We used to do projects across the spectrum and across the state. So working in adult literacy or poverty eradication, enablement of afforestation projects across mangrove reserves, things like this. And I realized very early on that that's kind of what I love. I admired the people who did that to an incredible extent, and I also saw that I could see the changes happening in front of me when I used to work on something like that. In fact, my company Altor also came up from the same principles. Our idea was, how do we actually make sure that the statistics of bike accidents across the country, like India has possibly the worst version of those statistics. Six two-wheelers dying every hour, six two-wheeler users dying every hour. How do we impact that? So for me, when I found Ram's posting, it was kind of a natural continuation. I was like, okay, this is someone who has a significant amount of experience in corporate. He has the qualifications. So I know for a fact that he's not doing this just because it's something that he felt like he should do at this point. And I just dropped him a message. I don't think I even applied for a posting, if I'm not wrong, Ram. I think I just dropped you a message. I'm not
No,
sure
I
about
think you
this.
just sent me a message on LinkedIn, and usually I don't
Yeah.
respond to most message, like unless like people randomly write to you like, hey, can you connect me to this, or like without, I may not even know them, just send a send request. Here, you basically wrote, I remember the message like, hey, I'm really interested in like social impact, and I think that's something I feel like you, looking at your profile, that's what. And so I was like, no, I really want to talk to this guy. Seems like an interesting person. So I think that's how we kicked off.
Exactly. And I ended up talking to him. So we scheduled a call for, I think, like half an hour, and it ended up becoming like an hour and a half or 2 hours or something.
I think close to 3 hours actually.
Close to 3 hours.
Close
Yeah, I
to
think.
3 hours. That was the longest call I had. Like,
yeah, it started out at like 9 p.m. and by the time I was done, it was like 12 p.m. or something, at 12 a.m. or something. And it was, but I realized that there was a culture fit going on like from day one for me. Like, I didn't know anyone else in the company, but I mean, if Ram was emblematic of the company, then okay, our values were aligned. So that's why. And honestly, like Pranav said, he like there's a sense of ease and progression here. And as Divya also said, there's a sense of camaraderie over here. Like, if I come up with an idea, then Ram will explore it. If I suggest something over here, Divya and Pranav can get together and actually give me the do's and don'ts and what are the key salient points I need in order to figure it out. And also, there's a lot of learning going on at any given point of time. Ram has a Udemy library full of courses that he'll ask you to read from, and it's probably bigger. It's probably got more videos in the Library of Alexandria at this point. He keeps trying to like make sure that everyone knows everything about everything. So it's a very supportive environment, and I really like that. And I've got to work with some incredible people from like best organizations and institutes across the country. That's the kind of talent a cause like this attracts. So yeah, that's it for me, really.
Yeah, thank you, Anirban. So now we'll probably explore a thread on the lighter side. So could you introduce us to one weird character in Beason or EcoWiser? I mean, it could be somebody who's not here as well. And why would you introduce us to this character? One very interesting character in Beason / EcoWiser. And here, Ram, you can go last.
sure.
I think I'd say Anirban. I mean, I know he's on the
Yeah.
call, but I don't think anyone has stories like Anirban does. Like Anirban's life, I feel can be made into, a sitcom or a movie or something. And, like a series of unfortunate but quite
Good
hilarious
events.
events. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's mostly because like all the work on my startup has meant that, and I come from like a so when I actually started my company Altor, we wanted to make sure that whatever money we spend on our journeys, we don't spend our parents' money, and which meant that we were broke half the time while we were traveling, which meant that we were traveling in the cheapest ways possible, which in turn meant that we were getting into the weirdest scrape. So I've told these guys stories about I've fallen off of a moving train, I've gotten mugged at knife point, I once fell on a train that went to my destination where I fell asleep, and then it came back. So I woke up after like 6 hours and realized I was in the same place. Uh, just a lot of things happen to me whenever I travel anywhere at all. And this is just at this point I've just given up. Like every week we have like a team meet, and Ram is just like, okay, what new thing happened? And I'm like, give it some time, it's gonna happen again. But it's probably, it'll probably take a bit of some time before any of this kicks off again. But yeah, and this is yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. A lot of weird stuff does happen to me. But yeah, that's how you make life entertaining here. Yeah.
Pranav, you want to share next weird characters you came across?
Yeah, I would say Ram and Anirban. Anirban because of his stories, and Ram because of his drive. I mean, no matter what time of day you're talking to him, he's always in his energy. I don't know where he sources that from, but he's always very energetic and driven. And I find it very weird because somebody has to be low too at some point of time. I mean, he's always charged for no reason. So
Just
yeah,
for no
I
reason.
find it very.
What do you know?
Yeah, I mean, okay, you're supposed to be sad too at times.
I am sad sometimes. What makes you think I'm not
Yeah,
sad?
but your energy is always consistent. It's always high.
I mean, see,
Yeah,
if
you're
things are
never
going wrong
tired.
bad, you need to still
Yeah.
like be on, right? Like, in fact, if things are going worse, you need to like bounce back faster because you need to like make things better. So yeah, counting on you, Pranav, when we'll start seeing more revenue coming.
But it's true. I feel like if Ram's calendar probably has like 50 meetings a day, but if you add a 51, he'll do it like attend it like a talk. I mean, with the same energy and like the same like level of
Yeah,
happiness and everything that like he would in
this is
first
very
meeting. And I
true.
don't know how he does that because it's usually by like night. I mean, everyone's tired, which is like what I thought is normal, but with Ram, that's not true.
Yeah.
This is very true. When I so I when we are hiring people, the worst I have had is like I've had around 20 to 22 meetings in a single day, or like 25 to 30-minute meetings. And by like the 15th meeting, I was done being polite with the candidates. Like I was just like, okay,
That recording stopped. Okay.
I'm starting again. So yeah, that's that, I guess. Yeah.
Anirban, you want to go with weird characters? I think it's your turn. I think both of them shared their lot.
Why weird characters? I don't think I'm.
Developer team, or maybe. I don't know.
Developer team. Acha. No, there's someone I could probably mention who's like the good kind of weird. I mean, weird in the sense that I can't believe that someone would have again that much energy. We have had someone. I'm not gonna. There's no point in naming him, but like he's like one of my favorite people in the developer team right now. Around probably know who I'm talking about. But this is the kind of person who comes in and he's like, I'm like, okay, listen, do X, Y, and Z. It's what I need in order to get this thing off the ground. By the time you check back in with him 24 hours later, he's done the entire alphabet. Okay.
Huh.
A, B, C, D, up
Totally.
till Z. Yeah, he's
Huh.
done
You tell him to do
everything.
ABC, he's done to Z. Yeah, I agree. This
Yeah,
is brilliant. I love this
and he's gone into Greeks by then. He's gone into the Greek letter. He's
guy.
moving on to Catalonian. He's moving on to Spanish. Everything possible that can be done, he's done. And it's brilliant because when you have someone like him on the team, it means that what you thought would be A is actually, you know, A star. Like you're building something that you thought would start with a bare minimum and then you'd build on it. But from day zero only, you're like, you and the other people in the developer team are pushed to build alongside him. And that's really good. So like that's, I like that kind of weirdness in a person where like it's just like, you know what, I don't care about what I've actually told to build. I'm gonna do a way better job of it. Like if you think that my suggestions are bad, I don't care as long as you do a brilliant job of it. So yeah, I mean, I do really like that in a person.
And
Other than that, weird. Yeah, other than that, I think if you're
Sorry,
if you're
finish.
going to if you're going about like simply weird, there was someone we had, I think in HR, I think Ram, and we probably remember this person where she worked for like a little while and then she complained to Ram about how it was unfair of him to check in on her work every 2 days. And the reason was that she wanted to have her work checked in on every 1 week, every week or so, because it was
It was
getting
every
difficult
month,
for
not every week. It was once in a month. He wanted work to
once in a month.
progress.
Yeah, progress. Like this is what we do with the database. Like give me a progress report once every 2 weeks. This is not how we handle a person. But yeah, that's one of the weirder people I've come across. So yeah, I guess. Yeah, Tarun, I think.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So now moving to the next thread, to more serious stuff. What's the next big milestone that you guys are looking forward to at Beezen/EcoWiser, and how are you thinking about it?
So the next milestone for us is seeing how we can enable more businesses to have more sustainable practices. Why we are also, again, the question that all of us keep thinking about on a day-to-day basis, like how can we have more impact? What can we be doing to creating a more sustainable world, a greener world? That is what we keep
Yeah, a specific milestone or metric that you're looking forward to in the next 1 year.
So on the B2B side, it is to help brands become more sustainable. So we are like helping them get the right certification, source the right ingredients for having sustainable practices. In the next 1 year, we aim to onboard 20 businesses in order to like do this. And with regards to on our website, we aim to like enable at least 100,000 people visiting our site every month and getting educated about sustainable practices. And we also have a Reddit community where we have over 10,000 people. We created something called subreddit called Conscious Consumers. So we have over 10,000 people, growing that to about 25 to 30,000 people. That's how we're thinking of like more education and helping them make better choices. That's how.
Thank you, Ram. So now over to Pranav, Divya, and Anirban. So now that these milestones, we know these milestones, we'd like to know what are you doing towards these milestones, and where do you think Beezen needs more help to achieve these milestones?
I think I'll take that first over here. For me, since my roles are quite cross-functional and across the spectrum, what I'm trying to do is making sure that there's a very strong team with a very strong backbone, so to speak, and a good grounding of both ideas and principles as well as tech skills. Because the most important thing in an organization that can be there is probably cultural fit, right? Because I can bring in the most skilled people. I can make sure that someone with like 16 years of experience is working in the tech domain, but if they have a different idea of what working in a startup means, or what working alongside people with a certain bent, certain socially conscious people means, they're not going to function as well. They're going to lag behind a little, or we are going to lag behind, and I can't have that. So I try to make sure that we have a well-rounded team. I'm trying to make sure that our design is up to the mark. It's modern, it's simplified, it's minimalist. I'm trying to make sure that we are focusing on the right technologies. We are taking advantage of what we have, the most modern frameworks when it comes to development, or even AI, or working on anything proprietary. And same with like UX and UI, making sure that we have a decent grounding in that place. So for me, it's more about making sure that the right people are working together and the right things are happening, and it's moving at a pace that reflects how urgent it is for us. So yeah, over to you, Divya.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as Ram was saying that we want to help businesses be more sustainable, and I manage the sustainability side of things. It starts from one, figuring out where businesses need more help. So we are trying to speak to various businesses to see where exactly it is that they require the most help and where we can help them. And also, it will require some capacity building in terms of like working with a business to help them rather than working for the consumers. It will be a different task altogether. So we'll have to we'll be working on building capacity in that sense to figure out what we need to do to scale up to be able to help them. And on the side of like educating people, and like Ram was saying, aiming to get more people to our website and our Reddit community. Again, seeing that what are the features and what is the kind of information and knowledge and everything that people would need to actually be able to make better choices. So working on that from a like a research and knowledge standpoint, and also something that would be engaging for everyone to be able to make that transition to a more eco-friendly lifestyle. So yeah, I think broadly that those are probably my the things I'm focused on in this perspective.
Thank you, Divya.
Yeah. So I am currently working on growing the number of installs of a Chrome extension and also increasing our website traffic. And I mean, we want to currently want to increase the installs organically and do not want to rely on paid media. So our sole focus is to increase the number of website visitors, targeting more relevant keywords to our business and grow organically. So yeah.
Thank you, Pranav. So I have one last question before we move in to my colleagues who I'm sure have a lot of questions. So my question is, when you are looking to hire at Beezen or EcoWiser, what are the qualities that you look forward to in a candidate? So a lot of youngsters will be watching this video. So what's your message to them? So what is it that Beezen or EcoWiser looks forward to, and how would somebody know if they're a right fit for Beezen or EcoWiser?
I can go ahead.
I'm
But
guessing.
I want to go ahead.
Yeah, I'm guessing that answer will vary across certain teams. Like Divya and Pranav will have a different view of that. The one overlying, or let's call it undercurrent of similarity that we all have is going to be fit. We are going to make sure that this is someone who does have some level of empathy for the cause that we are trying to pursue, or at the very least has involved themselves in social impact to some extent. But for me, I've realized it's mostly about execution. So what I'm looking for is someone who has proven on some level that they've been given a certain responsibility, or maybe they have given themselves some ounce of responsibility and they've carried it through. They've built something because they wanted to build it, or someone has told them to build it, and they've built it well. And I honestly prefer someone who has actually been able to build something themselves. It can be a full blown, it can be a full stack application that looks really good. It can, and if I'm hiring for tech, it can be someone who's started their own small company in college, and maybe it worked out, maybe it didn't. But either way, I know for a fact that they have initiative, that they have zeal, and that they have the ability to see things through. So for me, I guess that's the most important thing, being able to see something through to the end without saying, hey, I can't figure this out, I don't know what is going to happen. Because in the startup environment, as much as I can guide you, it's much more important that you need to kind of chart your own path, so to speak. I'm going to be relying on you to make sure that you know what you're talking about, and I'm going to hold you as the superior authority for a certain specialist topic if that's what I hired you for. So yeah, see through and execution. That's, I mean, like seeing through and execution are probably the two most important things here. So yeah, Aram, you were saying something.
I'll second Anirban a lot, most of the things that he said. I'll just add a couple of things in my experience that I've seen people who have been successful here or are happy working here. Usually they have certain qualities. One is they usually are driven more by having impact, and a lot of them care about sustainability. That I think is very helpful, because then you have the drive to like working towards, there's a meaning as to why you're doing what you're doing, right? That's the first thing. And second is like they have this growth mindset or this learner's mindset where, I really love people who want to try new things and test different things out. And there is nothing called failure. It's just another learning experience. So that's a culture we try to create here. So people with that mindset. And third thing is also like, because this video is again for a lot of young people, kind of people who will thrive here are like people who want to like learn continuously, and also not the kind, I also want to say people who won't be a good fit, right? People who want to just as Anirban was previously mentioned, right? Somebody was here, they said once a month they want to share what work they did, or they need some or say people who are applying for an internship, they just need a certificate and they're coming here. This is not the right place. So you won't do well. It's waste of the company's time as well as the individual's time. So I'm also talking not just of what we look for, also like what kind of people won't work here, or even people who are not self-starters. You need the kind of people who thrive here. At least the people who've done here well are like either I'm talking about people with experience. People who don't have experience, it's hard to quantify, but that people is mostly people who worked in startups before or had their own startups before and have that go-getter mindset, right? Those are usually the people who thrive at EcoWiser.
I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think Ram and Anirban have pretty much covered everything I was thinking when you asked the question. So.
Pranav, do you have something to add? What is that you would look forward to when someone?
Yeah. So whenever I am, when we are looking to hire and I'm interviewing someone, the two things I look for are problem-solving attitude and grit to take the initiative. If the person I feel is independent enough to take action and actually do something, try out something new, then I pass that feedback on. That I feel that this person has enough skill and the right attitude to actually make something happen. So yeah.
I'll just add to what Pranav just said, the second point, great. The other way also to look at is autonomy, right? People who like having autonomy and like freedom to try things, they will do well. But people who expect to be spoon-fed or like only do something when they're told, right? They will not do well. Like if you saw Anirban previously also, right? His favorite person, like good weird, he called was somebody who would not wait for approval. Like, should I do this? Should I not do this? He would just go and do it. And that is the kind of attitude or the kind of work culture we encourage, where you just try things out. There's nothing, nobody's going to shout at you or scold you for like trying something new. So that is something people who like autonomy and like thrive in chaos or figuring things out. Because startup, you're always figuring different things out, and we are very impact driven. So our metric is not just like make as much money as possible, but like how can we be of service and support as many people as possible. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Ram. And I think this gives us a good understanding of the culture and good understanding of what Reason or EcoWiser, the new name, which you guys are headed towards. I'm sure my colleagues have good questions here, so I should stop and take the questions of my colleagues. So yeah, would one of you have a question?
I have one question. how does a Chrome extension help me become a more sustainable person?
I think the simplest thing would be to maybe share my screen and show it to you. Is there an option? Let me just
Yes,
see if I
there
have.
is.
Okay, share screen, yeah. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
We are on Amazon, but we won't really be shopping right now, but I'll just show you how the extension works. You're able to see Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's say you search for jeans on Amazon. What happens is our browser extension will pop up on the right side, and it recommend more eco-friendly alternatives. And we have different tags like fair trade, low carbon, gives back to the community, organic. I mean, different tags depending on because every user might have a different value system. So depending on what's important for them, and they just click on the link and it takes them to the brand site. We, for some categories, already rated the brands on different sustainability parameters. And whatever we have here are only the shortlisted options that we recommend to consumers. I also wanted to add one thing. We are currently focused on the US market, and we're expanding to Canada as well. I'll also clarify why we're doing this. It's because if you see the average carbon footprint in the US, it's like 20 to 30x higher. I've also lived in the US for a year or so, and the amount of consumerism and a lot of wastage that happens, like unnecessary consumption, is insane in the US. And I feel like also, if you see a lot of us, we tend to ape what the Americans do. So I feel like if you drive change there, I think you can drive change easier in other places. And also the impact of change you can drive there is much higher. So that is why we are currently focused on the US market. Palaj, did I answer your question on how the extension works and how we are helping consumers make better choices?
Sure. So is it mainly about shopping and buying?
Yeah. So when it's about giving alternatives to consumers when they're looking for any product.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah, I would like to ask one question. What drives the existence of EcoWiser?
Anybody else wants to go, or I can go and find other ways?
I think this is a question tailor-made for you, Ram.
Okay. Okay. All right. So for me, I'm super excited about what we do here, and for me, it's not like what drives. I mean, just to make sure I understand clearly, it's like why EcoWiser exists and what we like. What keeps us going is that I just want to make sure I'm clear about your question.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. For me, initially when I started off, it was like, how can we help more people live sustainably and create a more greener planet, right? And address climate change. That was my thought process. And that continues to be a driver. But for me, also like the people I work with, I'm super inspired. Like people on this call, like I feel very blessed to work with them. Like, for example, like Anirvan, right? Super talented guy and very driven by social impact. So like there's that energy of similar, what value system, or Pranav also, right? Very, very passionate about he really cares about sustainability and cares. And Divya is think of her as like mother nature in human form of sorts, always looking to see how to make better choices and very, very passionate about sustainability. So when you work with such people, your energy also goes up, and you also feel like being of service to them and seeing how you can support them. And so it's a very nice circular sort of energy system that goes on, and everyone is excited by working there. So that's why I'm very, very excited about what I do and continue to do so.
Yeah. Who wants to go in with the next question?
Okay, so I have a question. Like from all of your responses, we came to know that you guys have a really good culture, right? You guys are happy with what you're doing. You guys are really into what you're doing. Like, how did you manage to bring it? Like, how did you manage to establish this kind of culture in the company? Yeah.
See, I think culture kind of gets organically built up. I mean, I don't think. There are things that I didn't want in the company, which I've consciously tried to avoid. Like things being one that people are have freedom to try things, and I don't encourage people who are just like not very excited about the sustainability or social impact because they will demoralize others. So I mean, I've consciously tried to avoid things, and through that, I guess organically the culture gets split up. But more than that, I think there is a spirit of like helping each other grow. I think if you just approach something with an intent, right? A certain intent of like, you want to be of service, you want to like help the other person grow. I think the other person sees it and then they want to help someone else also. So I think that's how I think it just gets built up. But I don't think we've consciously said that, we have to have this kind of good culture or I didn't create any boundaries as such of, I was clear what I didn't want. And if you eliminate that, whatever is like, supports like comrade, like also I worked at Google before and I had some principles I picked up from there as how to support a good culture. And I also worked in some nonprofits, which also gave me a lot of insight into people who are working, like the best people I've seen there were people who were working from a space of service and like just trying to do their best, not that they were trying to necessarily get something out of the other person. And that was something I tried to inculcate in the way I operate as a person. So I think others can probably add on to whatever I said, because I'm sharing my perspective of how I try to build, but maybe others can see what they see on a day-to-day basis from a culture standpoint.
I think, I'll just add on to what Ram said. It's the same thing for me as well. I believe a company's culture is obviously built by the people. It's not the other way around. You can't have a certain culture, at least at the very starting. You can't be like, I have XYZ checkpoints and everyone has to fit into these boxes exactly. Kind of builds up organically over time. You have a general idea of what you want to avoid and what you want to keep. And that's kind of what happens like here. Like right now, if I'm looking to hire someone, I usually see whether they have the drive to see things through and whether they are able to communicate well. And when I say communicate well, I don't just mean that, okay, you're very fluent English or anything like that. Can you gel well with a set of other people? Can you make jokes? Can you also be professional? Can you also be fun? Can you make sure that when other people are talking to you, you're giving the right amount of information? We have these weekly team meetings, which I enjoy quite a bit because it brings together a lot of people. And I think that's a great way to actually make sure that no one's left behind. And a good rule of thumb over here is, would they be able to function in a setting with X number of people? Because unfortunately, our teams aren't working in a siloed fashion. There's not like one person who's just going to work in one particular space and never see anyone else again. So this is something you have in a company with, let's say, 100,000 employees. We don't have that. So everyone's kind of working with everyone else. So that thing matters. And Ram himself is he's a very extroverted person. He does get along well with almost everyone. And that is something that I feel like has to kind of reflect in the people who also end up following his vision or the vision of like Divya and Pranav as well. And both of them are very comfortable talking to anyone else. And I think that communicational aspect is just as important as anything else in the company, obviously. So yeah.
I think one more thing I'd add there is also that I think from like day one, Ram always emphasized on trying to understand the people that you're working with or the people that are working under you, to understand, how they function as people and how they think and their strengths and weaknesses. And, how like that helps you understand them as people and also helps you understand how to work with each other. And I think that itself brings, like, that is not something that I think I exactly knew how to do, but I think like firstly with Ram's advice and also just watching him interact with people, I think that's something that I think not only me, I think everyone, even if they're not realizing it, I think everyone subconsciously has built that within themselves in the company. So I think that really helps, bring about that like culture of like working well together and understanding each other. So yeah.
I also wanted to add one more thing, right? Like the importance of why we stress on when we hire, like I try to find people who are very driven more individuals, right? Because there's a lot of freedom, right? And I also like to lead by trust rather than by fear or like pressurizing people. And that can only work with a certain, like people only if they're driven or motivated by either to learn something new or by social impact or sustainability. The drive should be there. Otherwise, that trust could be very easily misused. And like people could slack off, and the overall culture takes the way the company works, because if someone is expecting something from somebody else and they don't deliver, that person also morale will come down. They'll get frustrated, right? So you need that sort of innate thing that someone is trusting me and like I should respect that person's trust. That quality people should have when they want to work here. Because it's not very common. You'll find that in most companies where generally like people keep pressurizing others and like nobody necessarily checks on mental health. My experience is that if people like you create like a space where people are at their happiest, they will be able to think clearly and think like take action from, and they'll have more energy throughout the day. They won't get drained. Action will not drain them, but they will have more energy throughout the day. So that's I'm not sure if this is entirely making sense, but that's my thought process generally and how I try to approach things.
So like one last
Go ahead,
question.
Anuj.
So how would you define BGens / EcoWiser's culture in one word? Like if I with the example, if I have to define DeepThought's culture, I would say transformation. For me, it's transformation. So how would you define EcoWiser's culture in one word? Or it can be one sentence.
I would like to go last. Others can go ahead.
I'd say mentorial. I feel like everyone here has some sort of significant experience to impart to someone else, whether it's corporate or startup or hard-won experience. I mean, it's usually what Ram tries to make sure is that whatever he's learned, we get to learn from him, and I kind of try to do the same with the people I end up hiring here. Whatever I've learned, I try to learn from them, or at least my previous learnings. I try to make sure that that I can distill some of the stuff that I've understood after whatever I have done. So there's a very strong culture of, okay, if you're taking an initiative, I want to support it. I want to be a part of it. I want to know what you're doing, and I want to hope that you see it through. So yeah, that's it. I think mentoring is like a fairly big part of Ram's personality, certainly, and I do enjoy it as well to a pretty large extent. Where if I know that I can make a significant difference in someone else's life through it. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, I'm really bad at like these questions that ask you to sum up things in one word, because I always feel like I end up like with 20 words in my head. But I think, yeah, I'd either agree with Anirban on mentorial, or otherwise, yeah, like maybe growth, I suppose, in every form of the way, like personal growth, professional growth, and just in terms of the impact we're trying to create. Everything is always oriented towards growth. So probably that.
And I would describe it in 2 words. I would describe it as effective communication. Since the start, Ram has focused and pushed us to communicate better, and we have also done some exercises for effective communication. And I like to believe that the reason for the culture that we have is, ultimately effective communication only. So yeah.
I think they've captured it well. I would just say growth or impact. That's how I would have seen in terms of what I see the culture we try to create here.
We have time for one more question. Who wants to go in with the one last question for the day? Anyone wants to go in with a question?
Oh yeah. Hi Ram. Hi everyone.
Yeah, hi,
So how at EcoWiser, like how would you promote leadership and how do you promote young leaders?
how do you promote leadership and
Young leaders.
young leaders? Okay, others can talk. I think it's more. I think they'll give you actual examples, right? Rather than me saying how we do it. Like others, maybe someone if their experience, if they feel like they've developed something, you can probably just share how the process was.
I'd say it's very copacetic with the answers we've given till now. Our thing has always been, if I find someone who's being able to perform really, really well on his own, I want to give him a higher set of responsibilities. I don't want to, pigeonhole him into something. If someone gets hired as a backend developer and turns out to have really, really good design sense, then yes, why not? Why not lead up some of the UI UX work? If someone's a front end developer, but they're doing a better job designing things than our UI UX person, then take over that part. Handle it. It's I much prefer that. There's no like succinctly cut responsibility sect here. I mean, if you want to stay in your role, that's perfectly okay. I mean, you were hired for that. That's great. But if you're willing to kind of walk across the boundaries a little bit and make sure that you're working on certain parts as well as other parts, then I welcome it. I would prefer it. I mean, we have had at least one person that I can think of who was like very, very I think Ram I mean, Revati is a good example of something like this, I would say. And you
she could do everything. I mean, she just came with a very specific thing of a specific aspect of product, but she ended up like getting involved in like multiple facets, even like the business side of research. This was like a great example of someone very motivated. Like she's like, I just want to learn, and like this, like a sponge will absorb everything that you throw at them, and like so this person like was like she also got involved in like the project management of developers, designers, and so she was everywhere. I mean, even if you take Pranav, right? Initially, I think maybe Pranav, you want to share what you were initially hired for the SEO part and what else you ended up taking on, maybe.
Yeah. So I was initially hired to do the SEO, but I ended up doing almost everything in marketing. I run ads now. I've been handling the content team, and I have no prior experience of managing people. And I was not very sure if I could do that. But I mean, here I have gotten the opportunity, and I've also I would have else never figured out that I can also manage people. I can also make things happen. But here I've been given the space and also the chance to fail. I mean, there is no fear in my mind if something fails out. If a test fails, I'm not afraid of anything. So, and that also motivates me to try more. So I'm always up with something new, and Ram is always like, yeah, we should totally try this. So I think that is also a factor. There's no fear.
Because you want to share your example, not sure. You also like, I think she started off with a specific aspect of research and content, but yeah, go ahead. You can just share all the different things you probably ended up buying or doing. And Divya does a stellar job of everything she does. Like, she has that attention to like thoroughness.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I started off as an intern where I was, I started off with like writing content, writing a few articles, and a little bit on figuring out, okay, what would go into the, like how would we shortlist products and stuff. And I think, I mean, Ram is a great mentor, like a great mentor and a great leader, and he's constantly not just like mentoring you to do better at what you're doing, but also like what you could potentially do. I think he's like great at figuring out that like what a person's, like I was saying, like figuring out how a person functions. So I mean, I think he would mentor me and slowly increase my responsibilities and the work that I was doing, see what I was able to do. And I mean, I ended up like, again, like I also started off thinking that this would be a 2-month internship and that that would be it. But then I mean, I'm here like months and months, like more than a year later as well. And I think I've grown so much. I mean, I manage the sustainability team. I work a bit in product, I guess, and marketing, content, some things on the business side. And I mean, I didn't think like, I would end up doing so many things. And yeah, so I think like a lot of what the leadership builds up here is because we're a lot encouraged to like push our boundaries and to try out new things. And also like, with good mentors, like you end up like understanding what you can do and, where your potential. So I think that is how everyone like ends up scaling themselves up here because, yeah, I mean, it like really ties them back again to the culture and understanding that we have here. So, yeah.
Thank you. So we are now moving into the conclusion of this program, and there's a ritual in all the Vibe of X series. So I'd like to understand how are you feeling right now? Open to everyone in the link right now. How are you feeling right now? Again, in one word. How
I
are
think
you
I'm feeling a little bit sentimental right now. I mean, I guess all of this is things that I knew, but you don't necessarily always put it into words or put it into thought, even like frame it into thoughts in your head. But yeah, I think like now that we've done this, I guess yeah, that's how I'd say I'm feeling.
Thank you, Divya. Who's going next?
I'm not great at feelings in one word is not my forte. Feelings in general are not my forte. But I'd say driven is probably the word, because I feel like every time I talk about all of this stuff, I get a recap, like a mental recap of all the stuff that I have done in my life and all the stuff that I have done when I wasn't with Ram and when I was working with Ram. And it's just this, you get a self-image of, usually when we, this might sound philosophical slightly, but usually when we are doing something, we aren't really thinking about the 100 other things we did in the past, right? We try to live in the present and do that, or we're thinking about the bad stuff that happened. But when you kind of recap all the highlights, so to speak, you look at your highlight reels in your life to be savvy. You kind of focus on the best parts of yourself, and you realize that, oh, I can pull off something that I didn't think I would be able to. Up until like just like half a decade ago, I would never have thought that this is what I would be working on. That this is the kind of people I'd be working with, and it's very cool. Like I am a big believer in um, learn the most amount of stuff that you possibly can. I love taking up responsibilities everywhere, and when I think about all the stuff that I have learned, like in the conversation like this, I feel like, okay, I can probably keep doing this for quite a bit of time. So yeah.
Thank you, Anirban. Anyone who wants to go next, how are you feeling right now?
Pranav, you're muted. I think you can't.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to be working with such people. I mean, you might have seen how awesome all of these people are in our team. So yeah, I mean, it feels like a moment of reflection, feeling very, very fortunate right now.
I mean, for me, it was a very good reflective exercise. Feeling this whole session we've done, and just echo what Pranav said. I feel very fortunate to work with all these people. Very blessed. Yeah.
Thank you, Ram. So, who's going next? How are you feeling right now?
I think we all finished. At least.
So we open it up to everybody.
Oh, everybody. Okay, great, awesome. Oh, no thoughts from Deep, but everyone is quiet.
Anuraj is like our one-word person. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling inspired plus exciting, like to work with, to build your team, and as well as inspired that there exists one such culture out there. That's why.
He's the guy who's going to get you your team. So yeah, he's inspired to go and hunt the 4 growth hackers. Yeah. What do you, Saurav?
I'm feeling like very much glad to be part of like EcoWiser's journey. Like not only in terms of like the environmental aspect of it, but also the team building, the student unicorns that are gonna build like the culture they have within EcoWiser. That's right. That makes me feel very good.
Thank you, Saurav. Who's going next?
I feel like I met my college friends after such a long time. The way the culture is, and the Ram and Anirban, the way they were talking, it's like two friends catching up after some time, and it was really good to be a part of this interaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Balash. Who's going next?
Like I'm feeling really good, like to work with you guys, because like in today's organizations, like there aren't a lot of organizations that pays attention to their culture. Like when Ram said, like culture is something that you organically build, right? Like you feel you guys like don't pay much attention to it, but still you organically like grown a really good culture. So like we are feeling happy to work with. Yeah.
Can I go next? Like I kind of felt shocking, similar to Palash initially in a positive way, of how everyone was like, speaking about each other, and also how, when we are, it was really great to know that Divya was being a doctor and then came here, or a founder coming and supporting. Like everyone has one purpose of supporting the ecosystem. And I guess that was really good and shocking because of the way that everyone had stories as well. And my question was how one would feel in a day in their company. But to be honest, I felt it today. So I felt that question was not required because I saw the answer through the entire 1 hour. So that was my feeling.
Yeah. Thank you, Melvin.
I felt really excited because yeah, the student unicorns that are going to be there for EcoWiser are going to be taken care by us. So yeah, we are excited to have a participation with you all. So yeah.
Thank you, Shubhangi. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're done. So it was a great conversation, and I think every Vibe episode on the DeepThought YouTube channel only gives us more confidence that there's so many progressive cultures which are being built, and it's so nice to put all of this in a playlist. And I mean, while there are important causes to be built, I think it's the people who are going to be pursuing these causes, and the people only get better with culture. So I really thank all of you here in the audience. I'd like to thank team of EcoWiser for spending your valuable time. I'm sure for all our audience who are going to be watching this episode, it will be a masterclass on how you want to be, building your team, how you want to treat your fellow co-workers, and how you want to set up what would eventually become a great culture. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Tarun, thanks a lot for organizing this. This is actually very good for all of us as well. I think it was reflective for all of us. So I'm really glad, and thank you so much for everyone for listening and actually asking good questions and being engaged throughout. So really, really grateful to all of you, and thanks to the DeepThought team.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.